Shalom. This is Amayat Zagabar. In Hebrew, that means courageous warrior. And I'm just here to ask these Israelite organizations a question. These Israelite organizations, such as the ICGJC, whose leader, Tazadakia, died last year, the ISUPK, whose leader is Ya'ana, the IUIC, whose leader is Nathaniel, the GMS, whose leader is Tahar, the True Hebrews Under God, whose acronym spells out thug, which is madness, as well as all these Israelite organizations. I have one question. What is stopping all you organizations from coming together? Y'all be the same ones that want to point fingers at these Christian churches of the world, where when you go into an urban neighborhood where our people live, you see a church on every corner saying the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord, the temple of the Lord. And you would ask yourself, what's stopping all these different Baptist churches that are on the same street from coming together? I have that same question for you Israelite organizations. You all ultimately believe the same thing, that the blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and West Indians are the chosen people of God. They're the true Israelites. I also believe that. But I tell you what's stopping y'all from coming together: greed. Because out of each one of those groups, there is a leader who is money hungry and power driven. And they're not willing to give up that money or that power for anything. So they wouldn't dare put themselves in a position to have to coexist with another person that has the same position as them, the same title as them, the same power as them. And they all started back in 1969. Okay, they all have that same root, that same foundation. They all originally came out of the same school in 1969. And since then, they have dispersed, they have broken up. But what have they done? Because ever since 1969, these Israelite organizations that we see in the United States, they have been nothing but all talk. Leaders have come, leaders have gone. Leaders have taught madness that have been disproved. Leaders have been born, leaders have died since then. And what has changed? Some claim to be prophets. They all claim to be the men of God. Through their words, they said that they were the men of God. But through their actions, how is it? What have they done? When you look at the true men of God, things actually got done under their leadership. When you read the Bible, with Moses, didn't the nation of Israel escape out of Egypt and ultimately enter into their homeland, which was the promised land? Yes, they did. With the apostles, okay, weren't they able to perform miracles and do miraculous things because they were equipped with the Holy Spirit? Yes, they did. So, all throughout the scriptures, true men of God proved that they were men of God by what they were able to accomplish. But what have the leaders of these Israelite organizations done since 1969 but talk? All they have done was talk. And they're still talking to this day. But look at the condition of the nation of Israel. What are we doing as a people to make God come back, to make Jesus Christ have his second coming? What are we doing to move closer to that? Because Christ is not going to make his second coming until enough of us have got our act together and followed him. But these Israelite organizations have done a very mediocre job getting the people together and getting them closer to God. Too often we see these leaders talk more about themselves and have people in the church promote the leaders more than they promote the Lord. And that's what it's all about in these organizations. It's about the leader and it's not about God. Also, you got the congregation still having to pay tithes. When I tell you something, I do you a history lesson. Tithes are of the Old Testament. And the whole reason why tithes came about is because under the Old Testament, men from the tribe of Levi are the only ones back then that could be priests. And they could not work regular jobs. They were dedicated to doing the work of God. They couldn't go out and work normal jobs. So the other 11 tribes who could work regular jobs, they would pay 10% of whatever they earned to the Levites so that they could be able to live. Okay? But now we're under the order of Melchizedek, and men from all 12 tribes of the nation of Israel can be priests now. So that completely does away with the tithes and offerings. And you got some of these people from these Israelite organizations will try to bring up the fact that Abraham paid tithes. You know what? He did. And Abraham, he predates the law. So it's important to know that when Abraham was paying tithes, the law had not been established yet. But I tell you this much. Abraham did it according to free will. And that's ultimately what we are supposed to be doing in this age. Anything that we give to the church should be of free will. It shouldn't be a specific amount, a specific percentage, because that specific percentage was done in old times to ensure that there was enough to cover the living cost for the Levites. But now men from all the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel can be priests. But they still, on top of being priests, they still have to go out and make a living, earn a living. The scriptures let us know in the New Testament that a man who provides not for his own household is worse than an infidel. An infidel is a non-believer. The scriptures also let us know in the New Testament that if you did not work, neither shall you eat. You want to know why that wasn't said in the Old Testament? Because there were a specific tribe of men who could not do normal labor. They could not do normal work. And that were the Levites, because they were doing the work of God. But now that we're under the order of Melchizedek, now men from all 12 tribes of the nation of Israel can be priests. And they all have to make a living on top of doing the work of God. That's why Jesus Christ said, take up your cross and follow him. What is the cross that you have to take up? Your everyday duties and responsibilities in this life. You're supposed to do that as well as taking care of the work of God. And I will be putting up numerous videos disproving the lies, the deception that is being taught in these Israelite organizations. The only thing that they have told you right as of far is that the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the true Israelites. Now let's go farther from that point. That was already established back in 1969 when people started waking up. Now that we know that, let's grow from that and get our nation together so that we can get the hell out of this current situation that we're in, and that we can get back into the homeland and rule, and that ultimately Jesus Christ make his second coming. Shalom.